The book of Revelation says, "The spirit of prophecy is the testimony of Jesus Christ." This is at the very heart of FirstAmendmentRadio.com. In that spirit, we have created the Prophecy Reality News app for all of your mobile devices, streaming First Amendment Radio 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Available for your Apple, Android device, and smartphone, absolutely free. Get the Prophecy Reality News app installed today so you can listen to First Amendment Radio wherever you are. The Prophecy Reality News app. Get it now.
Okay, welcome back to the Investigative Journal on this March 8th, 2016 day on our calendar. I'm your host, Greg Anthony, and you're listening to FirstAmendmentRadio.com. You can catch my show every evening from 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. That's Pacific time on FirstAmendmentRadio.com or at 11 a.m. Pacific time. And if you can't watch those or listen to those two shows, go to my website at arcticbeacon.com. That's arcticbeacon.com. And the reason I spell it is that I found that many Americans spell Arctic A-R-T-I-C. It is A-R-C-T-I-C. So now you've got your English lesson for the day over. And should we go to penmanship now? No. Why don't we do something a little more important? I have been taking a few days off and playing some old shows about Tony Alamo ministry. And tomorrow I will have on Deborah Ondrasak of the ministry, and we want to discuss that movie that won the Oscars, Spotlight. And Spotlight had to do with a Boston Globe investigation into pedophilia in the Boston area and the Catholic Church. Well, that to me is just the tip of the iceberg. We had been talking about this for the better part of 20 years, and people before us have been talking about this. And the one big mistake people make is don't just think this is the major problem, although it is a huge, huge problem. Don't get me wrong. This is just the tip of the iceberg regarding the Vatican and all of their deceit, propaganda, all of their money laundering, all of their influence in causing wars, i.e. most every war we've ever been in. And the next one is on its way. So, stay tuned tomorrow. It'll be a great interview with Deborah Ondrasak. And also remember, the reason I do this story about this ministry, the pastor sits in jail for 175 years. I'd love to get, if there was justice in this country, he wouldn't have been convicted in the first place. And if there's anybody out there that wants to try to get justice, he should be released tomorrow. However, this is my main concern. There is no freedom of speech, no freedom of religion in this country any longer. Because if you can't speak openly, about the subjects we talk about here, then there is a huge problem because they go to the core of what the major problem is. And I'm going to explain that to you this way. I have been following these presidential debates for a specific reason. Now, many people that listen to my show or other shows on the internet that try to get peel the onion away and get to the real truth are turned off by this. They can't watch it. They just completely ignore this stuff. And I have always said that is a symptom that everyone goes through. I remember going through that symptom myself. It's almost as if you don't want to take bad medicine you don't want to take something that's going to destroy you. But the point is, once you get over that, once you've built up an immunity to the lies, then you can actually listen to them and see what they have planned and see how they really operate. Now, these elections, okay, we start off. They're most likely rigged. Secondly, your vote doesn't count. However, they put on a good show. So let's first start talking about the issues. Now, on the Democratic side, we have a little more talking, but the issues are very, very shallow. Very shallow. And on the Republican side, it even gets worse because they have, gone to this kind of sixth grade name calling between three of the major candidates. One who is a billionaire who went to Fordham University, Jesuit University. He dropped out after a couple of years, but he's right in the pocket of the Vatican. And the other two, one's a senator, you know who he is, senator from Florida, he is too, and the other's a senator from Texas. So the three major guys, and the other two, the other one now is just John Kasich, and he's been around a long time. So all of these guys are in the pocket of the Jesuits. Otherwise, they would be talking about major issues. Now, the issue we hear first is, a big one. Trump relies on immigration and says, we're going to build a wall. This huge wall on the border of Mexico. And he says, if the Chinese can build a 13,000 mile wall in hundreds of years, we can build one. And it's going to cost $12 billion, and Mexico's going to pay for it. Now, the reason he wants to build this is he says he wants to stop drugs coming into this country. Do you think that's going to stop the American military? And do they ever talk about Operation Gladio? No. So the real reason is not that. If they wanted to talk about keeping drugs out, they would be talking about Operation Gladio, how the American government is connected with, and the Vatican launders this money, and how we create these rebel groups through the fields in Burma, and now the ones in Afghanistan. But that's never mentioned. So we know that this is a fraud. Ask them about Operation Gladio. See if you'll get an answer. You can get kicked out. None of these journalists will get to the point. And maybe the one that tried to, remember Gary Webb when he started to talk just about the little story in Nicaragua, which is just the icing on the cake when you talk about this whole worldwide drug flow that brings in billions, and they have to launder the money, so it goes through the Vatican bank, comes out clean and fresh, and goes to every bank around the world. That's what the Vatican's role is. And of course, they get 15%. Maybe they get more now. I don't know. So, that's why it is a fraud. Now, the next issue we want to talk about is, I won't even get into ISIS today, because then we have to get into the fact of who created them, and we absolutely know that it is a CIA creation along with Vatican help and influence. We have in Syria right now, there's a Jesuit priest he's probably heading up the operations of how to keep this money flowing and all this stuff, just like they did years ago with Stalin and the rest of the boys. If you do your history. Now, do these candidates know that? They have to know it. But does anybody want to deal with the real question? No. So that's a major issue. They don't deal with it properly. Now let's get to something. We always talking about environmental interest here. We're talking about carbon dioxide, all of this stuff. Oh, we got to keep, the carbon dioxide. We can't drive these cars anymore. Oh, we have to have smog tests and all of this stuff that's created. Oh, and we're going to control how you move and how you do this. But at the same time, look above your skies. And what are those fake clouds, these chemtrails, coming out of these airplanes, polluting the skies, creating basically a death trap for all of us. Now, let me make a point. We've talked about chemtrails before. Now, if you live on the coast near San Diego, you don't see many here. It's really interesting. I see a couple every now and then. You go to Los Angeles, I was just there in the valley and all around there. They're all over the place. You go up in the mountains near Mount Palomar, even south. They're all over the place. You go to places where I've been, Idaho, St. Louis, Chicago, all of these places. I look up in the skies and they're crisscrossed with all of these chemtrails, and that's just America. This is going on worldwide. And we've had whistleblowers bring stories. They show you pictures of planes, what they're doing to us, what's in this stuff that just started in the 90s. And it's amazing. They're killing us right before our eyes. But do you think there has been one question raised about this at the debates? Do they want to deal with this? No. The moderators won't ask it. The campaign people won't ask it. So all this other stuff regarding environmental protection and all that other junk is ridiculous. So somebody sent me, I found this video and I sent it to a friend in India, and she sent me back she sent it all over the place, and I send her stuff sometimes because she's got a big huge contact list. So I sent it to her, and guess what? she writes back to me, and I'm going to play this, I think it's a 12-minute video to give you an idea. If they're really talking about the truth, then how come we don't discuss this? Now, she says this, please watch this excellent video of testimonials by professionals. We are being slowly murdered, literally. However, oddly, now one of the people in this, folks, is Dane Wigington, and she uncovered this, is connected to organizations that are subsidiaries of the UN. It is not possible to be seated in both camps and be a genuine whistleblower. She's got a point. Now, note that at the end of this video, they are proposing that we write to our congressman. Why? What? I asked that same question when I was watching this. Doesn't Congress know about the chemtrails being sprayed in the skies for at least a decade now? Oh, they know. It's longer than a decade. It's been since the early 90s. Think about that, she says. They don't know? I find that very, very hard to believe. So do I. So every one of these elected officials is either incompetent or complicit, one or the other, as there is no excuse for funding the spraying of these chemtrails. Now, and the B, listen to this, and she says, by the way, these are the same time-wasting maneuvers they consistently use on black ops targeting of dissenters. Several committees have been created by each administration, including the President Obama group, pretending to investigate the assault on whistleblowers, as if they know nothing about the attacks. Yet every administration has perpetrated COINTEL and the covert neutralizing of dissenters they deem threats. Although most of the people in this video are not only well-meaning and passionate, the solution suggested by those in control of sending this video to the very same government that is intentionally perpetrating and funding chemtrails is 100% bogus. Now, the point I'm trying to make is, either they don't know. The major thing here is this county supervisor board in Mount Shasta, and you'll listen to the video, made a recommendation that this be sent to congressmen, all of the things that were said at this meeting regarding chemtrails, pilots, doctors, scientists talking about this, so that something be done. Well, what came to my mind first was that they really don't, if their solution is to send it to those people, they don't really understand who they're dealing with. They don't understand the Vatican-led New World Order, and they should, because if they did, they wouldn't be sending it there. So think about that. Now, she says it's a controlled ploy. Now, that's a possibility. It's another useless solution that is programmed to have no effect other than to expose these scientists, pilots, and doctors who speak out to covert assassination. See, they bring them there. They want to know who's their dissenters. Then they give it to the county supervisors, who will then send it to nowhere, and nothing ever gets done. It is much like many global war tribunals that go on and on and on, no end in sight, because the tribunals are initiated and controlled by the criminals themselves. It's very important to see through this false agenda. But anyway, I thought I would play this video because it's about 15 minutes of a 2-hour session, and it does, if I am convinced 100% that what these people are telling the truth. Over the years, I've done investigations on this myself, interviewed people who have taken samples of this stuff in the skies and what it's doing to your brain and what it's doing to your health of your children. And then when you try to get justice, I've gone to military bases trying to, they really don't want to talk to you about it. They won't, and your congressman will never we want to do something, but nothing ever gets done. And the real problem with our system is we don't understand who really controls it. And if we did, we'd realize that by sending it up to the highest levels, we are sending it to the people who are actually perpetrating these crimes. Chemtrails is one of them. Listen, while you listen to some very, very shocking information, all in a nutshell here on the First Amendment Radio course on the Investigative Journal.
Go outside on a cold day and exhale. You create a condensation trail. That little cloud is a condensation trail. Now, if you take a 2-mile walk on a cold day and you can turn around and you can see your condensation trail tracking all the way back for 2 miles. That's how crazy it is to think that what we're looking in the sky is actually condensation trails.
The contrails, not the chemical, the contrails occur because of cold air, minus 30. It takes a high altitude, around 30,000 feet plus. There's carbon dioxide and water vapor in that exhaust. That turns to ice crystals, and that's what you see, the white stream behind it. Those white crystals of ice warm up, dissolve, and the smoke goes away. And it never lasts more than a minute. What we're seeing now, and I first could not believe it, and I started looking at the skies, and these are not normal. They're not natural. There's something going on. I don't know who it is or why they're doing it. All I can testify is it's not natural and it's not normal. It's got to be some outside influence doing that. Thank you.
I'm here to give you testimony that chemtrails, they're not contrails, are indeed real. They're spraying almost every day. I watch the clouds and watch the spraying program going on. I want to tell you that we're in very great danger from the pollution that's coming down over us. And we've been led astray by the military-industrial complex, and they're responsible for the cloud's creation and weather manipulation programs. They're dark operations. That's why they're not out in the media.
I look around and I see people are starting to look up and see them. Many times I've spoken about chemtrails, and I get this blank look on my face. What are you talking about? I'm saying, look up. As a pilot, before I fly, I look up. And so, boy, they're really out there working.
When you look up at the sun and you see a white haze, that is aluminum floating in the air right now, and it's coming from the aircraft.
There's a huge amount of aluminum being found because these sprays have aluminum, strontium, barium, manganese, and there's a lot of argument that aluminum is very common to be found, but aluminum is only common in a bonded form. It's not common in a free form, and we're finding high rates of free aluminum in the soil, which is not natural.
The metal compounds that are being used are environmentally dangerous. We need to be monitoring them. We need to be testing them.
Okay, these previous guys, I've watched exactly what they do, and yes, they are correct. I've seen exactly the same stuff, so ditto marks on those. You want some figures? Okay, latest water test. Tested the rain. 13,100 micrograms per liter of aluminum in the rain in 2013. Normally, it should be 0. So 13,100 is pretty damn much, folks. It used to be 0. Then it was 100s in the 2000s. And then since 2010, it's into the 1,000s and the latest 13,100. In the snow on Mount Shasta, pristine Mount Shasta, 61,000 micrograms per liter, 4 times the amount that is found in the soil up there. Where the hell is this stuff coming from if it's not coming from the soil?
We have clouds in the sky we've never seen before. Almost every day I'm seeing clouds I've never seen before. And NASA has been even named a few of these new clouds. And it's really interesting, but NASA is a corporation. I want you to know that.
NASA has also conducted a research program in what they call metallized fuels. We're actually putting aluminum oxide right in the fuel because it has 2 atoms of aluminum and 3 atoms of oxygen. So during the combustion process, it releases all that oxygen and dramatically increases efficiency, but it leaves the aluminum in the air.
We got things coming from sky down, and it's a huge, huge problem. Because as it comes down, what happens is a couple of things. Is that it actually is in our air. We breathe it. And as we breathe it, it's actually going to go up through our nostrils, into our brain, easiest access to our brain frontal lobe. The contaminants that have been identified, which already been mentioned, are aluminum. Aluminum is the number 1 free radical generator to the brain to cause early apoptosis, which is early death of brain, and it begins to set off the scar tissue, which we call the amygdalin, which is part of the chemical matrix related to Alzheimer's.
I'm a neurologist practicing in Reading for 17 years, and in the past 5 years, I have seen the number of patients with Alzheimer's disease, Parkinson's, and other neurodegenerative diseases tremendously increased, almost quadruple.
I became interested in chemtrails about 8 years ago when I was in Hawaii, and the Hawaiians are really being very vocal about it. I concur about the increasing number of Alzheimer's. They have been able to take the aluminum and micronize it, which means it'll stay up longer. But it also means, and I don't know if any of you have noticed some metallic taste in your mouth when they're spraying, but you inhale that, it goes up through your cribriform plate and through your sinuses and into the brain.
As you heard, to spray nanoparticles, very small particles. These nanoparticles, they basically trigger a programmed cell death in the brain, and that is the ultimate path we see in Alzheimer's.
That's problem number one, because when we look at the Alzheimer issue, we say those are the old. The real problem is, and the real scare I have, is as I am a father of two, I am a grandfather of three. So the drama is our children. ADD started in the 70s. Autism was not on the radar. There was no documents, there was no information. It was 1 in 100,000 children. Today, what we have is 1 in 48 boys. I was part of the early group that was looking for aluminum in ADD and ADHD. And all of those children that started to develop those phenomena had high levels of aluminum. When we figured out protocols to detox them out, to free the body of those particular contaminants, what happened is that their brains came back. When we do this to the age, it doesn't come back as quick, but it will come back. But I'm seeing Alzheimer's in 56 years old. Back in the 70s, Alzheimer's when you were 80.
If you remember 8 to 10 years ago, there was this big move to get rid of aluminum from underarm deodorant because it would cause Alzheimer's. Look what they're doing to us now.
I want to give you a little bit of history on the background behind nanoparticles. Has been described before. A nanometer is 1/billionth of a meter. It's very small. In fact, if you have particles, say, that are 40 or 50 nanometers across, you can take and line 50 of them up next to a single red blood cell. These things are extremely tiny. They're pervasive.
The collapse and decrease of agriculture is something I worry about even more than the previous info about autism and Alzheimer's.
Believe me, I'm seriously concerned with what I'm watching. As a wildlife biologist, I've been watching the ecosystem collapse. When you lose all your stream organisms, when you have aluminum overload in your streams, you're killing your microbial bacteria and you're disrupting the entire ecosystem. So it goes way beyond just a little bit of pollution. How did Monsanto know to create aluminum-resistant plants? I don't think I've heard anybody ask that question. Okay.
Insects. I've done studies in Siskiyou County. They're at 20% of normal. The aquatic insects basically made a nosedive in 2006 to about 20% of normal. So far this year, I've sampled 200 trout stomachs. 98% of them are empty. So sorry about the trout fishing fellows. The mayflies, stoneflies, dipterus, and caddisflies are damn near gone. The terrestrial sampling is down to about 20% of normal, except for pest species like ants. We're seeing a loss of the major bird species, and as the gentleman said, the ecosystem is unraveling, and Audubon's been telling you that for years.
The materials that are going into the environment right now, aluminum oxide nanoparticles and barium nanoparticles, these just happen to be the same materials that they use in nanothermate explosives. And so when this stuff settles down out of the air into the environment, it is small enough to be absorbed through the root structure of the trees in the forest. And so when there's a forest fire, and there will be a forest fire, those fires burn dramatically hotter. The point is that the cost of firefighting, the cost in the healthcare system have nearly doubled in the last 10 years. The amount of acreage is lost because of fires. The impact on human health is dramatic.
I personally tested water and aluminum, and I found aluminum had 47 times the normal expected amounts. Strontium had 10 to 20 times the amounts. Barium was 20 times. This is what the stuff looks like here. Collected, most people just think it's a cobweb, but I tested it. It has outrageous amounts of barium, strontium, and aluminum, but they destroy the sample, so I'm not letting this get away from me.
You know, these tests are international in scope. We're seeing this all over the world, guys. Okay, pH of acid soils is 20 times more alkaline. The aluminum in the soil has doubled in the last 10 years. The rain normal was 5.6. It's 20 times more alkaline.
Okay, I have to take a break here, and we'll come back with more of this very interesting town hall meeting on the Investigative Journal.
Visit crosstheborder.org, CROSS, crosstheborder.org, to get your print, EPUB, or PDF version of the book, The Rapture Will Be Canceled. That's crosstheborder.org.
I know you all want answers, and believe me, so do I, and I'll do my best to get them.
Despite Nicolas Cage's promise to do his best to get left behind rapture answers for us, don't hold your breath. Not everyone believes Left Behind is true prophecy. Some may even regard as conspiratorial the mainstream re-release of the Left Behind movie with actor Nicolas Cage portraying the main character as an attempt to further reinforce in the minds of all this perception of false prophecy in order to condition the masses for the play about to begin. If you want true Bible prophecy answers, get the book, The Rapture Will Be Canceled. The author exposes the Latin rapture origin, the 7-year tribulation deception, true Bible revelation of Daniel's 70 weeks, the abomination of desolation, the restrainer, America in the Revelation, the image of the beast and the mark of the beast, and the truth about God's chosen people, and so much more about Bible prophecy. This book will shatter the Left Behind paradigm of future events. Get the book, The Rapture Will Be Canceled. Visit crosstheborder.org, CROSS, crosstheborder.org, to get your print, EPUB, or PDF version of the book, The Rapture Will Be Canceled. That's crosstheborder.org.
The program you are listening to is 100% sponsored by you, the listener, on this First Amendment Rights Media channel. You will notice that there are few commercials on this radio network. There's a good reason for that. Corporate advertising dollars come with strings that limit program content. So without your help, these programs cannot continue on internet or our several affiliates. If you benefit by the educational law programs, we ask you to give. If you are admonished or nurtured by the Bible and ministry programs, we ask you to give. If some voice a cause that you are passionate about, we ask you to give. If you believe in any of these, we ask you to support them as you would a missionary on a continual basis, as if giving a tithe for missionary radio. These programs are not commercially viable and must be supported by those faithful to the cause of truth. Look for the button to sponsor your favorite programs at our listen and schedule pages on the internet. Then, when you subscribe, we will send you the last quarterly MP3 CD of that program immediately, and continue to do so with each new quarter. We will also give you unlimited archive access to all of our programs. We're asking you to give much less than a tithe, so that you may also send support directly to a particular program host, cause, and anywhere else the Spirit may lead you. Do all to the glory of our God and Creator, for His holy nation, the only kingdom that will last forever. Thank you for listening.
Okay, we are back on the Investigative Journal for this second half hour on this March 8th, 2016 day on our calendar. And I want to finish this up. There's about 5 minutes left. And then we'll discuss, I've got a whole bunch of emails that's sent to me regarding this subject, and we can read some of them. And remember, this has been going, we've been talking about this, I believe, I can remember starting to talk about it in 2003, and I know people were talking about it even 10 years before that. Now, this is not just a problem in the United States. This is all over the world. We need to get to the bottom of it. Will we? Well, if we understand the Vatican-led New World Order, we've got a better chance. Back to this county supervisors meeting in Mount Shasta, California.
Aluminum blocks essential nutrients. I am unable in my garden to restore normal pH, and that's because nanoparticles are now in the circulatory systems of both plants and humans.
The Air Force conducted a study starting in 1993. It was called In Vitro Toxicity of Aluminum Nanoparticles in Rat Alveolar Macrophages. That's a real fancy way of saying testing the effect of aluminum nanoparticles on the white blood cells in the little air sacs in your lung, the alveoli. And what they found in this 8-year study was that these particles, when you're exposed to them long enough, it suppresses the ability of your white blood cells to defend you from airborne infections coming into your lungs. So it suppresses your immune system. But they also found that these same particles, once they get into your system, they can actually go through the barrier in each one of the cells. They get inside the cells, and these particles can actually suppress the ability of mitochondria, which are in the cells that help to gobble up toxins and things that will be harmful to the nucleus and the reproduction process of the cells in your body. These processes are suppressed, and so essentially by breathing this material in, your immune system is dramatically suppressed.
I wrote to the federal government because Air Force wrote a book, and on the first page of the book they said, we're going to control the weather by the year 2025. I asked them, what are they doing spraying these chemicals on the public? I said, there's violation of United States Code 50 USC 1520, which prohibits the American government from experimenting on the U.S. citizens with chemical agents. I said that law also requires who's ever experimenting, when the federal government does it, that they have to report to Congress within 30 days. They wrote back, they said they don't know what I'm talking about. I think we have enough evidence that there's this spraying going all over the place.
We were warned about the takeover of our freedoms by the military-industrial complex by both Eisenhower and Kennedy. They're gaining traction on us, folks. We are in trouble more than just a spraying program.
All I can say is it's about time we get up in arms about this, because it is affecting our health. It's high time that we as citizens of this great country take action.
Board of Supervisors in Suffolk County, New York, they outlawed geochemical engineering. Hawaii passed an ordinance prohibiting geochemical engineering. I urge you to bar geoengineering in Shasta County and pass an ordinance. At least ask some damn questions. What the hell is all this aluminum doing here? Why are the trees dying? Fishes dying? Why is there Alzheimer and aluminum spiking? And why are these fibers on the ground here in Shasta County? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Merman.
Today, the Shasta County Board of Supervisors has been the beneficiary of some sincere, passionate, and knowledgeable comments. And I thank you for those. I am in agreement with my colleagues about sending letters and a call for action, but I would hope that we could go a step further. I would like for us to send a copy of this video where all of you spoke today, all 2.5 or 3 hours of this testimony, to be sent to our senators and our U.S. representatives, and also our representatives in the state of California.
We'll do that.
Let them listen to the passion that came out of this meeting today. Thank you.
You have the motion in front of you. I think it's understood. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Motion passes unanimously. It wouldn't surprise me at all if the response is one that exceeds far the boundaries of Shasta County in terms of the platform that is offered, as evidenced by those who attended today from around the world. That's very impressive.
Okay, every time I do a show like this, I think I sound like a broken record. I don't know how many shows in the past I've done on chemtrails, and you can see that these people over at that Mount Shasta Board of Supervisors meeting, even though they sent it to all the people they said, the chemtrails seem to get worse. So let me read a few. Before I want to play another one, since I'm being a broken record today. I found this little interview of a pilot. Talks about chemtrails, one who flew these airplanes. Thought I'd do that, but let me read some emails I get regarding this subject. And this is by Tina. She says, the chemtrails are so bad right now. I mean it when I say I'm so sick I can hardly breathe, cannot stop coughing. When I start to cough, it does not stop. It's like my whole body is going into convulsions. I'm talking to people every day that are going through the same thing. My friend Alda's boyfriend, Steve, went to the doctor and got steroid injections because he couldn't breathe right. You should see the sky today. It is totally white, crisscrossed, and totally white by the end of the day. I wish I could tell you. I would send you pics while it is happening. I'm including pics below, and she includes these pics, and this was taken in California, somewhere above Malibu, I believe, and it's amazing when you look at this. And like I said, I have been around, I've lived in that area. I've lived in San Diego, and I don't see many around here. Is that because of the military industrial complex, the Navy yards here in San Diego? I see a few every now and then, but not like this. And there's another one. Hi, this is by someone named Adel. Hi, everybody. Please have a look at this one, and please take it seriously. It has to do with cancer and many other diseases. Today, every third person gets cancer. I do remember days when there was hardly any. I want to fight the scam like ever before. Please open your eyes and your mind. It has to do with your own and your grandchildren's future. And please, forward this to your friends and your loved ones. I lost my daughter Bertie, 40 years old, to cancer 2 months ago. I don't want this to kill my 9-year-old grandson. Keeps going. And there's so many, many more emails I've gotten over the years like this. Emails from all over the country, all over the world, when I was doing this on a weekly basis. And it just seems to be getting worse. Okay, so let me go to this. This is a pilot of chemtrail flights. Reveals current and future plans. So I thought this would be good to listen to. So let's tune in.
And he's proven to be highly credible in the past. And he is reporting that he's got information from an actual chemtrail geoengineering engineered aerosol pilot who is inside these programs. So this is new information. You can also find this posted on geoengineeringwatch.org, Dane Wigington's site. The rest of this, I'm just going to read the posts that...
Now, did you hear that? And I did this for a reason. Now, in the earlier segment, I mentioned Dane Wigington. He was not at that Board of Supervisors meeting, but he has connections to the UN, runs a geoengineering website. Could be COINTEL controlling things, but it's still good to get this information.
Record his contact with this pilot. Right, December 8th, 2014. My cousin, who was fired by our dictator just before making rank withheld, sent me information given to him by a friend who is still an Air Force pilot. This pilot is saying that he flies chemtrail flights. This pilot told my cousin that this global geoengineering effort goes by the name of, quote, Indigo Skyfold, unquote. At least within the circle of pilots and aviation crews that he works with, they are told to fly specific routes, and satellite comm links control the aerosol dispersal patterns. He says that they only make course corrections from time to time and perform landings and takeoffs. Pilot, navigation, and maintenance crews are rotated constantly and only spend about 18 months at one given base. He states that this is to keep pilots and their families from making too many friends and ending up with loose lips. Plus, they also rotate between day and night flights, one base for daytime flights and one for night. Each base covers a 250-mile zone, and each fleet squadron of planes cover 3 states, or an even larger swath of ocean. They are told to simply do their job and shut the F up. Their superiors will only tell them it's a matter of national security and, quote, without these flights, our enemy's newest technological weapons of war could easily penetrate America's airspace at will. We are dedicated and committed to keeping our allies safe from the same skyward threats, so we extend the arm of protection to those countries who support our efforts. Hostile nations are also building atmospheric shields while in the same discourse, trying to explore weaknesses in our ever-developing air and space-based technologies." Unquote. Sounds more like a PR statement to me. I think this pilot either believes what he is told, or he is simply trying to sugarcoat their genocide project. December 8, 2014. My firewall detected multiple intrusion attempts when I Googled the Indigo Skyfold code as well. Zero information found on the internet for this operation. That is unique. I received a rather lengthy reply from the chemtrail pilot. Here is that text from his or her email. First of all, I would like to say I do not agree with my mission assignments, but what soldier ever truly does? Several of us have considered bucking the ranks and going AWOL from time to time. We are kept in the dark when it comes to getting honest answers about what we are really spraying. Should they discover that we or our families are actively inquiring about your so-called chemtrails term, then automatic and swift disciplinary action will be taken. HARP and radar are two other non-allowed research subjects. Unless our children are learning about these in base schools, we cannot educate ourselves or our children through any public tutoring system. I would not intentionally spray my children with family with toxic aerosols, but as you must know, 80% or better do not have any family or children. Indigo pilots are chosen from the top ranks within the Air Force, Navy, and Coast Guard. Most of the pilots are, quote, hardened to humanity, unquote, and could care less about killing off unwanted or leeching aspects of America and the world. I swear to you, the majority of the pilots are like machines. I call them tanker terminators. I should not be telling you this, but nearly 1/3 of all flights are being orchestrated from small unnamed islands, where newly constructed bases are being built at a rate of 8 per year. On these extremely remote islands, there are HARP arrays of every possible design, with many arrays surrounding these islands within the depths of the ocean itself. The Navy has developed sophisticated underwater construction technology that allows fully autonomous robot submersibles to travel great distances and even manufacture parts for these massive underwater arrays as they progress across the open sea floor. Every time that you see or hear about military exercises at sea, they are basically there to give support and resupply their army of underwater robotic minions. There is possibly one aquatic robot per plane, and will soon be double that. You will never be able to Google Earth search any of this, other than an occasional error in blurring some island bases or smudging images of underwater arrays. It is impossible to locate all these artifacts. They even paint fake clouds over some of our island installations to keep prying eyes away. I have been shown some of these images by civilian friends. That is the reason I know this. I completely understand your concern for human safety, but here is the kicker. We are shown videos in our training of catastrophic destruction to our homeland by very sophisticated weapons, then told that these will be the consequences if we don't fly. Our efforts in building a defensive atmospheric weapons shield are the only missions of its kind in the world. We are paid more than any other pilot for our service, other than Air Force One pilots, who make as much or more and are kept in a dark secret world for their own protection. They tell us that secrecy is our protection and not to listen to any public rhetoric. We all know about cyber program Flashpoint, or FP-03, as it is known within the veteran community. This program is a self-destruct sequence that can be remotely activated from any ground, water, underwater-based, or other air mobile unit. The signal is encrypted through 3 satellites and cannot be jammed or blocked. At any given moment, you could have only 15 seconds to make your peace with your God. They tell us that FP exists to keep planes from accidentally going down in heavily populated areas. They can remotely detonate our planes over safe zones. but in the back of your minds, our minds, we are pretty sure this is a fail-safe program to keep pilots from turning over assets to any public, private, or civilian authorities. Have you ever seen any member of the crew survive the few crashes that have occurred? Every plane that has gone down was completely destroyed for good reason, I'm sure. We risk our lives in more ways than one every single time we fly, especially night flights. They are ordering us to fly at lower and lower altitudes. We feel like massive dark force empire crop dusters, and know that one night Bubba or Billy Joe will fire their long rifles at us when we spray their moonshine-making operation or pass over an illegal Mary Jane crop. I know for a fact that some planes have been shot at and subsequently brought down by mostly Russian, Chinese, and Korean weaponry. But the media will never cover these events, as they are not allowed to report on our flights either. That must be true, for I have yet to see a detailed or in-length report of our missions on any public venue, other than conspiracy shows and anti-government websites. I risk everything for disclosing so much information, and you will find very few like me. Even my own flight crew would have me arrested and court-martialed if they knew of this dialogue. That is why I cannot email you directly. But from what your cousin tells me, you are also risking everything just to get this information out to your colleagues. I salute you, sir, for standing up to the establishment and Big Brother. I would love to go home tomorrow and not rack up one more single minute of flight time except for a sweet little Piper Cub or a rat-tail barn racer. I miss those beautiful blue skies from my youth, and I am ashamed for hazing over that dream. Maybe more of my fellow pilots will read or hear about this and decide to come forward as well. I only know a small fraction of the larger picture, as they compartmentalize everything. Should I become aware of any new significant developments, I will email your cousin. And now this is the man I have contact with. He says he senses a wavering within the ranks and feels that a kind of mutiny is being boiled to the surface of this whole geoengineering global whitewashing, if you catch my drift. My cousin still has friends in high places too, so he is helping to protect the pilot. This came December 11. Last word from the pilot was, quote, all pilots on leave are required to report to their CO by December 15th for special training operations to qualify for Indigo Phase 2 flights, expected to be initiated by January 21. Those were his words, not the actual Air Force message. He wanted me to stress that. He believes that the focus of their flights will be moved to areas east of California and Texas in order to progress the drought further into the heartland. Plus, he feels that a very new, extremely toxic chemtrail mix is going to be sprayed using new technology that makes these special chemtrails completely invisible. Atmospheric shield of protection. He doesn't believe that either. So that's the end of the message from this chemtrail pilot. And I just, from my own experience, I've had a lot of contact with this guy for 6 months via the internet, and basically everything he's told me has turned out to be true. So I have no reason to doubt any of this. So hope you can forward this. This also points out how difficult it is to fight this program, because the people inside the program are not subject to public opinion or public information sources.
Okay, I got about 4 minutes here. I found this clip by Prince exposing the Illuminati depopulation plans.
When I saw the State of the Black Union, Dick Gregory really moved me and a lot of my friends. I show it to everybody that comes over the house, especially white folks, because they need to hear that, so that they know more about all of us. Because what he said affects all of us. He said something that really hit home about this phenomena of chemtrails. And when I was a kid, I used to see these trails in the sky all the time, and say, oh, that's cool. A jet just went over. And then you started to see a whole bunch of them. And next thing you know, everybody in your neighborhood was fighting and arguing, and you didn't know why. Okay, and you really didn't know why. I mean, everybody was fighting. So he started riffing about the chemtrails, and he started to say things that hit home so hard, and I would recommend that everybody try to get what he said online or wherever, and try to get a copy of it and just listen to it, because I was so moved that I had to write the song. The other thing is the first line of the song. It says, I was born on the same plantation in the United States of the red, white, and blue. And we live in a place now that feels just about like a plantation. We're all indentured servants. When I found out there were 8 presidents before George Washington, I wanted to smack somebody. I wanted to know why I was taught otherwise. Just tell me the whole story. I'll fill in the blanks, but don't tell me something that you think I'm supposed to know.
We're indentured servants and we got a black president now?
Well, I don't vote. I have nothing to do with it. I got no dog in that race.
And for those who would cuss me out and slap me in person if I didn't ask you why?
Well, the reason why is because I'm one of Jehovah's Witnesses, and we've never voted. And that's not to say that I don't think Barack Obama, President Obama, is a very smart individual, and he seems like he means well. Prophecy is what we all have to go by now. It's very interesting. I did a sold-out concert in London. We played 21 nights in a row, and all the concerts were sold out. When I would watch television over there, and you'd see the United Nations feed, the direct feed from the United Nations, you'd hear them talk a lot about religion. You'd hear the Bible mentioned constantly. This is not what we're used to in the United States. It's almost as though there's no need for God and no need for religion.
Okay, so I just wanted to play that clip by Prince, whether you like the Jehovah's Witnesses or not. I wanted to get that in about Dick Gregory's statement about chemtrails, depopulation, and what he thinks about it. He said a few good things about that. So remember, this is a huge, huge problem. Basically, we're being killed as we speak right now through the air we breathe. And hopefully this show, you can send it around to your friends. I'm not thinking that it's going to do a lot of good, knowing how the Vatican-led New World Order works, but it's always good that even one person understands this. We'll be back tomorrow on the Investigative Journal.
Since the beginning of time, kings have sought it, nations have fought for it. It has been traded, it has been borrowed, it has been purchased, it has been stolen. There's a reason for it. To secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and to our posterity, invest with the security of gold and silver. Call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188 or visit discountgoldandsilvertrading.net. Listen to Financial Survival with your host Melody Cedarstrom right here on FirstAmendmentRadio.com at 4 p.m. Eastern or 1 p.m. Pacific Time. Visit discountgoldandsilvertrading.net or call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188. Toll free 1-800-375-4188.